It was Valentine's Day when the photo arrived from a number I didn't recognize. The light in the bar was low and predatory, and my fiancée, Chloe, was sitting on a young man's lap. They were locked in a deep kiss, her eyes hazy with pleasure, her hand wrapped around the back of his neck. A second later, a text message followed, dripping with provocation. "She's in love with me. Back off if you know what's good for you." My blood ran cold. My face a mask, I forwarded the picture to Chloe. I added one line. "Is this what you call loyalty?" She seemed to have forgotten who provided everything she now had. The car, the penthouse, the luxury goods, the cushy, high-paying job. Since she clearly didn't want it anymore, I would take it all back. Chapter 1, my phone buzzed. Chloe's name flashed on the screen. I didn't answer right away. I let the shrill ringtone echo through the empty living room, each chime a death knell for our ridiculous relationship. 3 minutes later, it stopped. Then came the iMessage notifications, popping up one after another. "Ethan, what the hell is your problem? You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Just to ruin my night. It's just a stupid picture. Are you serious? Can't you be the bigger person for once?" My friend had too much to drink. What's wrong with me helping him out? I stared at her indignant questions on the screen, a humorless smile touching my lips. Helping him out? You helped him out by grinding on his lap? By putting your mouth on his? I didn't bother to reply. Instead, I opened my banking app and found the Amex Black Card I had given her, the one with no spending limit. I tapped the screen. Freeze account. Done. Next, I dialed another number. "Good evening, the Sterling Residences. This is security. How may I help you?" "This is Ethan Cole, owner of Penthouse 9. Yes, I need you to immediately change the access codes to my property. And effective immediately, a woman by the name of Chloe Vance is to be denied entry to the premises. Her license plate is..." The man on the other end noted the details professionally, without a single question. This was the standard of service in a building like this. I hung up. The world was finally quiet. I sank into the sofa and closed my eyes. Memories from the last 3 years flooded my mind, uninvited. I remembered when she'd just graduated, crammed into a tiny studio in Brooklyn, eating instant ramen, looking up at me and saying, "Ethan, I don't need anything. I just need you." I remembered when my tech startup finally took off. I bought her first Chanel bag, and she hugged me, sobbing like a child, telling me I was the best person in the world to her. I remembered when I bought this penthouse, her standing before the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Central Park, saying, "Ethan, we'll build a home here. We'll be together forever." Forever. What a joke. My phone started vibrating again, frantic this time. It was Chloe. I swiped to answer, saying nothing. Her voice, tight with fury, crackled through the speaker. "Ethan, you froze my card? What the hell is that supposed to mean?" My tone was flat, devoid of any emotion. "It means nothing. It's my card. I can freeze it whenever I want." She seemed to choke on my indifference. "Over a picture? I told you it was a misunderstanding. Do you have to be so dramatic? Have you forgotten what day it is?" "I haven't forgotten," I said coolly. "It's Valentine's Day. I wouldn't want to interrupt you in your soulmate." "You bastard, Ethan." The mask finally dropped. She was screaming now. "You turn my card back on right now. I'm out with my friends. How am I supposed to pay for anything?" "Your friends?" I let out a short, cold laugh. "Is that the one you were sitting on? Or the one sitting on you?" Dead silence on the other end. I didn't give her a chance to respond. "Chloe, the game is over. From this moment on, everything I ever gave you, I'm going to take back, piece by piece." I ended the call and blocked her number. The crystal chandelier cast an icy light onto my empty hands. 3 years. It ends here. Chapter 2, an hour later, my phone rang. A blocked number. I answered. It was Chloe, her voice hysterical. "Ethan, you changed the locks? Are you insane? You want me to sleep on the street? It's not your apartment." I reminded her. "The deed is in my name. I can change the locks to my own home whenever I please." She was so angry she was sputtering. "We're getting married. Your home is my home. Why are you being so cruel?" "The wedding is off," I said, each word a shard of ice. "Chloe, the moment you betrayed me, there was nothing left between us." "I didn't betray you," she insisted, still clinging to the lie. "It was just a flirtation. You're the one I love, Ethan. Have you forgotten the last 3 years?" The same old lines. A wave of nausea washed over me. Don't you dare talk to me about love. You've defiled the word. I hung up. A few minutes later, a FaceTime request popped up. It was Chloe's mother. I scowled but accepted the call. The perfectly preserved face of a woman who spent her days at spas and country clubs filled the screen, her expression a mix of annoyance and condescension. "Ethan, darling, what's all this nonsense with you and Chloe? Locking her out on a holiday? You should ask your daughter what she's been up to, ma'am," I said, my voice cold. "What could she possibly have done? She went out with friends, that's all. You're a grown man, Ethan. You can't be this petty," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "Chloe is young. She likes to have fun. You just need to be more understanding. Now be a good boy and let her in. It's freezing out there." Understanding? I almost laughed out loud. I picked up my other phone and opened a second video the stranger had sent me. The lighting in the nightclub's VIP room was even dimmer, more intimate. Chloe and the man were on top of each other now, clothes in disarray. It was graphic. I sent the video directly to the WhatsApp group we'd created for wedding planning. The Cole Vance Union. My parents were in it. Her parents were in it. So were her aunts, uncles, and cousins. The moment the video uploaded, the chat went silent. I turned back to the phone, looking at the stunned expression on her mother's face. "That," I said calmly, "is what you call having a little fun. Your daughter seems to be having a blast." The color drained from her face. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. I didn't wait for them. I ended the call. Tonight was just the beginning. Chapter 3: The family chat exploded. The first to react was Chloe's father, Robert Vance. He didn't type in a group. He called me directly. The second I answered, he started yelling, "Ethan, what do you think you're doing? Haven't you ever heard of not airing your dirty laundry in public? You send something like that to the whole family? Are you trying to make us the laughingstock of our entire social circle?" His voice boomed, filled with the indignation of a man whose reputation had been threatened. "Robert," I said, my voice dangerously calm, "this isn't my dirty laundry. It's yours. When your daughter decided to act like this, she should have expected this day would come. She's young. She made a mistake." Robert parroted his wife's excuse. "As a man, can't you give her a second chance? Delete the video. We can pretend this never happened." Pretend it never happened. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the phone. "Not a chance," I bit out. "You." He seemed shocked that I would dare defy him. "Ethan, don't forget who welcomed you into this family. You were just some kid from nowhere with a half-baked startup. Our family's name gave you legitimacy. You can't be this ungrateful." His revisionist history was so absurd it was almost funny. "Robert, let's be perfectly honest. You gave me your blessing because you saw the valuation of my company. In the years since, what has the Vance family done for me besides take that director of marketing job for Chloe, the one that paid her $250,000 a year to have brunch and post on Instagram? I pulled strings with a friend on the board to create that position. That new G-Wagon you're driving? I paid for it. In cash. And a mortgage on the condo you and your wife live in on the Upper West Side? That's my bank account. It's drafted from every month." With every sentence I spoke, the breathing on the other end of the line grew heavier. "I have given your family everything. I have been more than generous. And now, after your daughter publicly humiliates me, you want me to just pretend it never happened? Robert, are you delusional?" It was the first time I had ever called him by his first name. The line went silent, filled only with his ragged breathing. Finally, in a tone that was almost a plea, he asked, "What do you want?" "Simple," I said coldly. "Everything I gave you, I want it back. My lawyer will be in touch tomorrow morning at 9. I hung up before he could say another word. Outside, the city night was a smear of ink and light. The show was just getting started. Chapter 4: The next morning, my legal team went to work. First, a letter was sent to the board of the company where Chloe was employed. It was accompanied by a full accounting of the funds for her director position traced directly from my accounts. The letter made it clear that her role was a purchased sinecure, and that she possessed none of the qualifications for the title she held. As a courtesy, I had my assistant anonymously forward the explicit video to the personal emails of the CEO and the head of HR. I didn't have to make any threats. I just had to present the facts. No publicly traded company with a reputation to protect would tolerate a mid-level executive who got her job through backroom deals and whose personal life was this scandalous. As expected, I got a call from my friend on the board before noon. "Ethan, man, you went nuclear? Chloe was fired this morning. HR sent out a company-wide memo about gross misconduct and behavior detrimental to the company's image. Her reputation in this industry is toast. She did it to herself. I said, my voice even. Yeah, I guess. Don't worry. I've cleaned up any connection to you. Your name won't come up. Thanks. I hung up the phone, feeling not triumph, but a quiet sense of finality. That was only step one. That afternoon, my attorney called with an update on the asset recovery. Mr. Cole, Ms. Vance's vehicle has been repossessed. As for the penthouse, since you purchased it outright and the title transfer was never finalized, we can easily revoke the gift. The stickier part is the credit card expenses over the past 3 years. The sum is substantial, just over $2 million. Recouping that might take some time. No, I interrupted him. I don't want the money she spent. The lawyer paused. Mr. Cole, I want her to pay it back, I said, my eyes tracing the traffic moving along Park Avenue. My voice was like ice. It wasn't a gift. It was a loan. I want her to pay me back every single cent, with interest. Build the case for a verbal loan agreement. I want to sue her. It wasn't about the money. It was about saddling her with a lifetime of crushing debt. It was about making her live forever in the shadow of her betrayal. I wanted her to pay the steepest possible price. Understood, Mr. Cole. I'll get right on it, the lawyer said, instantly grasping my intent. After handling it all, a deep exhaustion set in. I rubbed my temples. My phone rang again. It was Chloe, calling from yet another new number. I answered, and her tear-choked voice filled my ear. Ethan, I was fired. My job is gone. Please, just let me go. Don't you care at all about the 3 years we had together? She was crying, her voice pitched to sound as pathetic as possible. Once that might have worked. Now my heart was stone. When you were screwing some other guy, did you think about our 3 years together? I was wrong. I was so wrong. She sobbed. Just give me one more chance. I'll never do it again. Too late, I said, cutting her off. Chloe, this is only the beginning. Enjoy the party I've planned for you. I hung up and blocked the new number. Chapter 5. For the next few days, Chloe Vance vanished from my life. I imagined she was frantically trying to manage the train wreck her life had become. No job, no car, no home, and now a multi-million-dollar lawsuit hanging over her head. I could practically picture the look of despair on her face. I in turn threw myself into my work. My company was bidding for a critical contract, and our main competitor was a powerful, established firm. The project lead for our rival was a woman known in the industry as the Ice Queen, Serafina Reed. I had seen her once from a distance at an industry conference. She was on stage in a sharp white pantsuit, speaking with an effortless authority and a charisma that was impossible to ignore. I never imagined we'd be going head-to-head. On Friday afternoon, I took my team to the client's headquarters for the final presentation. In a hallway outside the boardroom, I ran right into her. Today she was in a tailored navy blue dress that highlighted her incredible figure. Her makeup was subtle, her eyes sharp and assessing. Mr. Cole, she said, extending a hand first. Her voice was as cool and crisp as her reputation. It's a pleasure, Ms. Reed. I shook her hand. It was cool to the touch, but soft. After a brief, professional exchange, we went to our separate prep rooms. The bidding session was a battle. Our teams traded blows, presenting innovative solutions and pointing out the flaws in each other's proposals. It was a masterclass in corporate warfare. The judging panel was deadlocked. During a short break, I went to a window at the end of the hall for some air. The sound of heels clicked on a marble floor behind me. Sarah Reed came to stand beside me. She didn't look at me, instead gazing out at the Manhattan skyline. You seem to have had a bit of trouble recently, Mr. Cole, she said suddenly. Her tone was unreadable. Was it concern or probing for weakness? A knot tightened in my gut, but my expression remained neutral. You have an excellent intelligence network, Ms. Reed. My breakup with Chloe, though I tried to keep it contained, was already gossip fodder in our small world. I just think, she said, turning her head to look at me, her beautiful eyes startlingly direct, that some people aren't worth the trouble. Her gaze was so focused it felt like she could see right through me. For a moment, I felt exposed. I'm sorry you had to see that, I said, forcing a tight smile. Don't be. She shook her head, the corner of her mouth ticking up in a faint, intriguing smile. I actually think you handled it with more. decisiveness than I would have expected. The unexpected compliment caught me off guard. And so, she said, her tone shifting to show my admiration, I've decided to do everything in my power to crush you in this bid. A competitive fire lit up her eyes. She looked like an elegant, proud panther. I was stunned for a second, and then I laughed. I looked forward to it. Crossing swords with a brilliant, beautiful woman was always an exhilarating experience. For the first time in days, the dark cloud over my head seemed to part, chased away by the light in her eyes. The final result of the bid surprised everyone. It was a tie. The client, unable to choose, decided to award the contract to both our firms as a joint venture. This meant that for the next several months, I would be working very closely with Serafina Reed. I saw her again at the project kickoff meeting. She seemed fascinated by my recent scorched earth tactics. After the meeting, she stopped me. "Mr. Cole, would you be free for dinner sometime?" she asked, her tone so natural you'd think we were old friends. I was surprised but nodded. I'd be honored. We chose a quiet, Michelin-starred restaurant in Soho. "I'm curious," Sarah said, swirling the Cabernet in her glass, her eyes full of inquiry. "What made you decide to go all the way? To be so ruthless?" I was silent for a moment. I guess it was the moment I realized she had taken my trust, stomped on it, and then spit on it for good measure. Sarah's hand paused mid-swirl. She gave a small, knowing smile. "I get that." She didn't press further, changing the subject instead. "And the guy? What are your plans for him?" I blinked, surprised she'd even ask. "The college kid, Ryan Hayes." Honestly, I hadn't even thought about him. All my focus had been on Chloe. "He's a pathetic little clown. Not worth my time," I said dismissively. Sarah shook her head. "Mr. Cole, sometimes the smallest piece of trash can contaminate everything. A person like that is a liability you can't afford to leave unchecked." Her eyes were cold, sharp with a worldliness that cut through all pretense. "I had someone look into him for you," she said, sliding her phone across the table. "This Ryan Hayes isn't some innocent college kid. He's a predator. He trolls Instagram and dating apps looking for women who are kept by wealthy men. He seduces them, bleeds them dry, then disappears." Chloe was just his latest mark. On the screen was a detailed dossier on Ryan. There were intimate photos of him with several other women, screenshots of large Venmo and Zelle transfers. My eyes narrowed. He even uses the same photos and the same lines to provoke the sponsors to drive a wedge between them. Once the woman is kicked out, he squeezes every last dime from her before he vanishes. Sarah's voice was calm, but her words sent a chill down my spine. So that text, "She's in love with me," was just part of script. Chloe's stupidity ran even deeper than I'd imagined. She thought she'd found some grand passion, but she'd just walked straight into a predator's trap. "What are you going to do?" Sarah asked. I stared at the damning evidence on her phone, my expression hardening. "Ms. Reed, thank you for the intel," I said, sliding the phone back to her. "I owe you one." "Don't mention it," Sarah smiled, a captivating glimmer in her eyes. "I just hate to see a smart man get played by an idiot." Her smile was like a stone dropped into the still, dark water of my heart, sending ripples through me. I didn't go after Ryan Hayes directly. For a parasite like him, simple revenge was too kind. I wanted to watch him walk into his own grave. I had my lawyer contact the other women Ryan had scammed, anonymously forwarding them the evidence Sarah had given me. I offered them free legal counsel from my firm's top litigators with only one condition. They had to join a class action lawsuit against him for fraud and extortion. The vengeful fury of a woman scorned is a powerful force. Magnify that by 5. Within days, a victims' alliance was formed. They compared notes, compiled evidence, and in less than a week, they had a mountain of proof high enough to bury Ryan for a very long time. All the while, Ryan himself was oblivious, probably congratulating himself on the last bit of cash he'd managed to squeeze out of Chloe. After I'd kicked her out, her true love had systematically drained her savings with a series of sob stories. I can only imagine the look on his face when the police showed up at his door with a warrant and a pair of handcuffs. I heard all of this secondhand from my lawyer. Apparently, once in custody, Ryan sang like a canary to get a reduced sentence. He confessed everything. How he targeted Chloe, how he encouraged her to take the photos and videos, how he deliberately provoked me. All of it was a calculated plan to get her cut off so he could pick the bones clean. His confession was the final nail in Chloe's coffin. She wasn't just a social pariah anymore. She was a cautionary tale, the foolish woman who'd been scammed out of a life of luxury. And I never had to see her face again. With those distractions dealt with, the project with Sarah kicked into high gear. We started seeing each other more and more. Sometimes we were in the boardroom, arguing passionately over a technical detail. Other times, it was late at night after a long day, sharing a beer at a dive bar near the office, gossiping about the industry. I discovered that Sarah wasn't the ice queen of her reputation. That was just armor. Once you got past it, she was witty with a dry sense of humor. When I was banging my head against a wall over a problem, she'd appear with a hot coffee and casually suggest a brilliant solution from a completely different angle. When she saw the exhaustion in my eyes, she'd say with a half-joking smirk, "Hang in there, Cole. The only one who gets to defeat you is me." Being with her was a thrill. It was a relief. She was my equal, my challenger. Slowly, without me even realizing it, a light was beginning to shine in my life again. The project was a huge success, and my partnership with Sarah became seamless. One night, to celebrate hitting a major milestone, our teams went out to a karaoke bar in Koreatown. Everyone was letting loose, drinking, singing, and laughing. Sarah's team had plied her with more than a few drinks, and a charming blush colored her cheeks. She had shed her usual reserve and was now lounging on the sofa, holding a microphone, singing a classic, soulful ballad. Her voice was surprisingly beautiful, a little husky and rich with emotion, a stark contrast to her usual cool, crisp tone. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. I just watched her, a strange warmth spreading through my chest. By the time the party broke up, it was nearly midnight. Sarah was a bit unsteady on her feet. Her assistant moved to help her, but she waved him off. Then, her gaze, shimmering and intense, found mine. "Ethan," she said, the first time she'd used my name, "you're taking me home." It wasn't a request. It was a command, laced with an undeniable mix of confidence and a hint of vulnerability. My heart skipped a beat. Against all logic, I nodded. I helped her out of the bar. The cool night air seemed to sober her up slightly. "Thank you," she said, pulling away gently to stand on her own. "No problem." I opened the passenger door of my car for her. The ride was quiet, the silence filled only by the sound of our breathing. "Do you think I'm easy?" she asked suddenly, her voice soft. "Ich glänzt over." She was looking out the window at the blur of city lights, the lines of her profile impossibly elegant. "No," I said honestly. She turned to face me, a small smile on her lips. "Ethan, I'm into you." The sudden confession hit me like a physical blow. My hands clenched on the steering wheel, and the car swerved slightly. I thought she must be drunk, rambling. "I'm not drunk," she said, as if reading my mind. Her eyes were perfectly clear. "I've been interested in you since I first saw you at that conference. Then, when I heard what happened with your ex, I became even more interested. I admire your mind, but I admire your ruthlessness even more." So, she leaned towards me, her warm breath ghosting over my ear, carrying the scent of wine and something uniquely her. "Are you going to give me a chance?" "And give yourself one." Her voice was a whisper, a fatal temptation. My throat went dry. I felt all the blood in my body rush south. I had never met a woman so direct, so unapologetically confident. She was a fire, bright, hot, and utterly irresistible. I didn't answer with words. I slammed on the brakes, pulling the car over to the side of the road. Then I turned, tangled my hand in her hair, and crushed my mouth to hers. The kiss was a raw, explosive release of months of pent-up tension and desire. She didn't just accept it. She met my hunger with her own. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathless. I looked at her lips, swollen from my kiss, and said in a hoarse voice, "That's my answer." Chapter 9. Sarah and I were together. There was no grand declaration, no timid testing of the waters. It happened as it should have, naturally, inevitably. Our relationship was like our business partnership, efficient, direct, and filled with the unspoken understanding of two adults who knew exactly what they wanted. We started dating like a normal couple. We saw movies, we wandered through art galleries in Chelsea, we hunted down hidden culinary gems in the West Village. With her, I finally completely left the shadow of my last relationship behind. I discovered that real love wasn't about dependency. It was a partnership of equals. It was mutual admiration. It was two people coming together to become better versions of themselves. Serafina Reed was a treasure. She could be a shark in the boardroom, but with me, she could be as playful as a kitten. She presented a cool, untouchable facade to the world, but she saved her warmth and passion exclusively for me. Her double standards were blatant, and I love them. I don't care what anyone else in the world thinks, she'd whisper, her arms wrapped around my neck. I only care if you're happy. She understood my pride and my scars, and she knew the unspoken desires a man keeps hidden. She'd saunter into my home office while I was on a late-night conference call, wearing nothing but a silk robe, and wrap herself around me, her body a soft, warm distraction. "Is that spreadsheet more important than me?" she'd murmur. In those moments, all my discipline would crumble. I fell willingly into the beautiful trap she set for me. Our relationship quickly became an open secret at our companies. The looks I got from colleagues shifted from pity to a potent blend of envy and awe. In their eyes, winning over the Ice Queen was a bigger achievement than closing a billion-dollar deal. And all of this, I knew, was like a slow, twisting knife for one person. Chloe Vance. Chapter 10, I saw her again at a charity gala at the Met. It was the kind of event that brought out the city's elite. Sarah, as an honoree, was on my arm. She wore a stunning black fishtail gown, looking every bit the regal, elegant powerhouse she was. Her entrance turned every head in the room. As her date, I was bathed in her reflected glory. We were making conversation with a few tech billionaires when a broken voice cut through the noise. "Ethan." I turned and saw Chloe. She was skeletal, a ghost of her former self. She wore a cheap, ill-fitting cocktail dress that was completely out of place. Her heavy makeup couldn't hide the desperate, haunted look in her eyes. She stared at me, then at the magnificent woman by my side, her face a storm of jealousy, regret, and pure hatred. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice bordering on a plea. Before I could respond, Sarah took a half-step forward, subtly positioning herself in front of me. "Excuse me," Sarah said, her voice dripping ice, her eyes sweeping over Chloe in a dismissive glance. "Do you know my husband?" She deliberately emphasized the word husband. The color drained from Chloe's face. I'm his ex-girlfriend," she stammered. "Oh, an ex," Sarah drawled, a cruel, perfect smile playing on her lips. "So a stranger, then? I find it terribly rude for a stranger to interrupt a private conversation. Don't you?" Chloe was speechless, turning her venomous gaze back to me. "Ethan, you just want to let her talk to me like that? What kind of man are you?" I frowned, taking Sarah's hand and pulling her back to my side, protectively. I looked directly at Chloe, and my voice was flat and final. "First, you and I have no relationship. Second, I'd appreciate it if you never approach me again. And third, what my wife says goes." My wife. The words were like daggers, and I saw them land. Chloe staggered back as if I'd physically struck her. People were starting to notice the scene, whispering and pointing. "Isn't that Robert Vance's daughter? What happened to her? I heard she was with some tech mogul, but she cheated and got dumped in spectacular fashion. Yikes. And look at the guy she's with now. He looks like a toad." I followed their gaze and saw, for the first time, a greasy middle-aged man standing a few feet behind Chloe, scowling impatiently. He was short and fat, with a comb over, and he looked at Chloe not with affection, but with the irritated air of an owner whose property was misbehaving. It clicked. After losing everything, Chloe had reverted to her old ways to survive. Only this time, her taste had taken a nosedive. I felt no pity, only a grim sense of cosmic justice. I turned my back on her, took Sarah's hand, and walked away. Behind me, I could hear Chloe's broken sobs. "Ethan, you can't do this to me. I love you. Come back." I didn't look back. Sarah squeezed my hand tightly. "Don't listen to her," she murmured. "Let's go home." "Okay," I said, looking down at her and managing a real smile. "Let's go home." The ugly past was finally, definitively, over. The scene at the gala became the talk of the town. Chloe's humiliation was complete. The story I heard was that her new benefactor, embarrassed by the public spectacle, dumped her the very next day. She was once again left with nothing, and with the court judgment for the $1. 2 million debt now official, she was blacklisted. Her credit was destroyed, her assets frozen. She was a pariah, unable to get a decent job, unable to even leave the state. Her life had hit rock bottom. Mine, on the other hand, was soaring. The joint venture with Sarah's company was a phenomenal success, sending both our stock prices into the stratosphere. We became known in the industry as the ultimate power couple, the dream team. Our relationship was solid, deep, and passionate. The night of our project's wrap party, I proposed. It wasn't a public spectacle. I took her back to the quiet Soho restaurant where we'd had our first dinner. I get down on one knee and presented her with a ring I had designed myself, our initials intertwined in the platinum setting. "Sarah," I said, looking up at her, "I know I'm not perfect. I've been hurt, and I was cynical about love. But you changed everything. You walked into my life and lit up all the dark corners. Will you marry me? Will you be my light, always?" Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't say a word. She just held out her hand for me to put the ring on her finger. Then she leaned down and whispered, her voice thick with emotion but full of strength, "Yes. Of course, yes." I stood and pulled her into my arms, holding her tight. In that moment, I felt like I had the entire world. Our wedding was an intimate, beautiful affair. We didn't invite hordes of people, just our closest family and friends. As I watched Sarah walk down the aisle toward me in a simple, elegant white gown, it felt like a dream. She was the most beautiful bride I had ever seen. As we exchanged rings, she gave me a playful wink and whispered, so only I could hear, "Mr. Cole, you're officially mine now. No looking at other women." I laughed, squeezing her hand. "Mrs. Cole, right back at you." Married life was even better than I could have imagined. We were lovers, but we were also partners in every sense of the word. We built our empires together, and we enjoyed the fruits of our labor together. We could argue fiercely over a business strategy in our study, and, hours later, be curled up in bed on a lazy Sunday morning, simply holding each other. She healed me. She made me whole again, teaching me how to love and be loved without reservation. And I, in turn, devoted myself to making her the happiest woman alive. Whatever she desired, I laid at her feet. Her rare flashes of temper I found utterly endearing. Time passed in a blur of happiness. A year later, Sarah told me she was pregnant. I was ecstatic. I cleared my schedule, delegating everything I could to be by her side, catering to her every whim. Watching her belly grow, feeling the flutter of new life inside her, it filled me with a sense of profound joy and purpose I had never known. When Sarah was 6 months pregnant, we went shopping for baby furniture. In a high-end boutique filled with ridiculously expensive cribs, we ran into someone unexpected. Chloe. She was wearing the faded uniform of a sales associate, explaining the features of a bassinet to a young couple. She was even thinner than before, her eyes hollow, her face etched with the weariness of a hard life. She saw us at the same moment we saw her. Her gaze fell to my hand, which was resting protectively on Sarah's swollen belly. She froze. The couple she was helping grew impatient with her distraction and snapped at her. She just bowed her head numbly, murmuring apologies. "Sir, ma'am, I'm so sorry, so sorry." The timid, broken woman before me was unrecognizable from the proud, vibrant girl I had once loved. Sarah tugged on my sleeve, a silent signal to leave. I nodded, guiding her toward the exit. Just as we reached the door, Chloe rushed over and blocked our path. "Ethan." She looked at me, her lips trembling, her eyes swimming with a terrible regret. I was wrong. I was so wrong." Her voice was a ragged whisper. "Seeing you so happy now. I regret it so much. If I hadn't done what I did, would that be me by your side right now?" I didn't look at her. I stepped in front of Sarah, shielding her completely. "Ma'am, please move," I said, my voice as cold as a winter morning. "My wife needs to rest." Chloe's body shook with violent tremors, and tears streamed down her haggard face. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I don't need your apology." I cut her off, my voice sharp. "The only person you owe an apology to is yourself." Without another word, I steered Sarah around her and walked out of the store. I never looked back. Some people, some mistakes are final. Her regret, her pain, It had nothing to do with me anymore. My future was with Sarah and with our child. Out on the street, Sarah stopped and looked up at me. "Are you sad?" she asked softly. I smiled, cupping her cheek. Why would I be sad? Over a stranger. But you too were. That was a different lifetime, I interrupted, pulling her into a gentle hug. What I have right now is the only thing that matters. Sarah, thank you. Thank you for finding me. Thank you for showing me what love really is. She snuggled against my chest. You're not allowed to see her again, she mumbled. Deal, I chuckled. That chance encounter was a tiny ripple in the calm water of our lives, and it quickly faded. A few months later, Sarah gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She looked just like her mother, especially her eyes, large, bright, and full of light. I became hopelessly devoted. The first thing I did every day when I got home from work was hold my little princess. Her giggles as I held her were the sweetest sound in the world, melting my heart completely. We named her Annabelle Sarah Cole. Anna, for tranquility, and Sarah, for the woman who gave me everything. My hope was for a life of peace and happiness for them both. My life in that moment was perfect. A successful career, a thriving family, a wife I adored, and a daughter I cherished. I was grateful for that long-ago betrayal. It had ripped away a facade, showing me the ugly truth, but in doing so, it cleared the path for me to find the true light of my life. I had lost something hollow and gained something infinitely more precious. Everything had happened exactly as it was meant to. Chapter 15. For our daughter's first birthday, I chartered a private yacht, and we sailed to a secluded cove in the Caribbean. Sun, sand, and turquoise water. Our closest friends and family laughing and celebrating. Sarah, in a flowing white dress, held our daughter in her arms, her smile as bright as the sun. I looked at my two girls and knew, with absolute certainty, that I was the luckiest man on earth. Midway through the party, my COO approached me discreetly and handed me a tablet. Mr. Cole, I thought you might want to see this. On the screen was a news alert from a tabloid site. Hashtag former influencer jailed for theft SBRE. Hashtag the accompanying photo was a mugshot. The woman's face was gaunt, her eyes lifeless. It was Chloe. The article stated that, unable to find work and crippled by debt, she had resorted to shoplifting. She'd been caught and, due to prior offenses, sentenced to prison time. I stared at the picture, and I felt nothing. A profound, empty nothing. Her fate was the culmination of 1,000 bad choices. She had walked this path herself. She had no one else to blame. I closed the window and handed the tablet back. Don't show me things like this again. Of course, Mr. Cole. I walked back to my wife and daughter. Sarah was pointing up at a passing seagull. Look, sweetie, birdie. Anna waved her chubby little hands, babbling happily. Dada. Birdie. Sarah laughed, her eyes crinkling at the corners as she looked at me. Honey, I think she's talking to you. I went to them, taking my daughter from Sarah's arms and kissing her rosy cheek, then pressing a soft kiss to my wife's forehead. I'm right here. The sun was warm. The breeze was gentle. The people I loved and who loved me were right here with me. This was my entire world. As for everyone and everything else, they were just whispers, long since carried away by the wind.